together with this open economy can no longer work in this environment. Why? Well, because historically it was the fruit of a compromise, which was democratic societies, individual freedom, a progression for the middle class, which led to this progress of societies. And this consensus, this balance was broken by these four accelerations.
And so I really believe in what you said, stakeholder capitalism, meaning that we need to put back at the heart of the model the response to these four questions. Over the last few years, we've tried to do so. States have tried to do so, but states alone cannot do that. If we try to do that, we'll have a problem because the state will be the only one who tries to correct external negativity. So it incurs a lot of debts to pay on its own for the remedy to climate change, remedy to inequalities. And so you have a model where you have an overwhelming public debt and taxpayers have to pay for that. And as we know, taxpayers are the sedentary actors, if you will. They cannot enjoy all the benefits of globalization. This is why I'm convinced that we will believe the future of humanity by keeping certain fundamental things: private property, cooperation, individual and collective freedoms, which are the bedrock of our societies. So all of this must lead us to rethink our organizations, to bring back to the heart of companies and undertakings the fight against social inequalities, the regional disparities, the climate consequences of our actions. So what we've called over the last few years the economic, social, and environmental responsibility, CSR, basically corporate social responsibility, these are innovations that we need to take one step further. We need to reform our companies from within so that all of the stakeholders, as in stakeholder capitalism, employees, employers, shareholders, we all need to take into account the impact of the actions in terms of the democratic impact, environmental impact, and social impact. You've mentioned, Mr. President, that several things. And today I'm pleased to announce that we have announced the commitment on the part of private companies to report on a regular basis against specific and accurate criteria regarding their corporate social responsibility and environmental responsibility along the so-called ESG criteria. Regarding the environment, I'm given to understand that the new American administration, U.S. administration, has joined again the Paris Agreement. And a lot of progress has certainly been made, but I would like to ask you, are you satisfied with the progress made so far, or do you call for a new consensus that would go beyond what's been discussed and approved in the past? Well, I have several comments on this. First of all, we agreed on a climate agenda, the Paris Agenda, and at this point, we have not lived up to our commitments, all of us. So our top priority is to do our utmost to stay true to our commitments. And I'm saying all together because there cannot be any freeloaders. We need to move together so as not to create productivity biases. This is why in the last few years, when the US decided to leave the Paris Agreement in the summer of 2017, there was a major risk. But I see that over the last few years since the House of Cards did not tumble. So we created the One Planet Summit, and we held steady, Europeans, a lot of emerging countries, China also. Let us not forget they cooperated very much so, and also with many federated states from the US. And now the Biden's administration's first move was to join the Paris Agreement again. So I call upon everyone, to, as we did in Europe, to revise upwards our objectives in terms of CO2 emissions, minus 55%. Second of all, we committed to carbon neutrality by 2050. These are the two decisive milestones in the near future to shape our behavior. Now, we need to apply this at the local, the regional level. We need to have a carbon pricing that is high enough. We need to have mechanisms that encourages and invites companies to go down that road. We need to have sanction mechanisms so that companies, households can go faster, stronger. We need to renovate our buildings, our cars, etc., etc. So this is the first pillar, and it is essential. The second pillar is about bringing with us the finance industry and private companies, the private sector. And this circles back to what we were saying. I really believe in the initiative that we've set up with the One Planet Summit, with sovereign wealth funds, asset managers, and private equity players. So on December 12th of last year, we had a virtual meeting with all these partners, and we've managed to bring under one same heading, if you will, one same project, the Climate Financial Disclosure Task Force, the so-called CFD task force. This is a great step forward. And so we have a great methodology now. Investors have committed themselves to a measurement methodology, which is really what you were talking about, and which we are now applying at company level. And on December 12th last, we managed to have the companies of the CAC 40 in France adopt this new methodology. So they will have to prove to the markets, to the capital markets, that they comply with these criteria. Third pillar, we need to do the same with biodiversity. I am convinced that we will only be able to stay true to our climate commitments if we can bring on board embark our companies, our people, our countries on a biodiversity agenda. This is what we meant to do with One Health, the One Health initiative, because this brings together the fight against desertification, against climate change, for biodiversity, and what we are currently, this is but the beginning, but what we are doing for climate, we need to do for biodiversity. And this will entail changes in agriculture production, in the very way that we consume and live. And so this year we have to come up with common rules. So when you ask what more do we need to negotiate, so I believe that during the Cumin summit, we need to be able to negotiate the equivalent of the Paris Agreement, but for biodiversity. A few days ago in Paris, we had a virtual One Planet Summit for biodiversity. We took several major initiatives. The Great Green Wall was one of them. It straddles 11 countries of the Sahel and the Horn of Africa in order to fight desertification. Many initiatives also for biodiversity, and we launched a new initiative for financial disclosure.